this is Linda with Sweet RE Decor. I want to thank you so much for purchasing this Merry Christmas Cardinal Wreath kit. It comes with all the items you see here. We have 3 rolls of ribbon. We have our red ribbon. We have our beige cardinal ribbon, which is adorable. And then we have this little crosshatch pattern that I love, and I've used this in a lot of my kits. This kit does come with 2 berry sprays, which are super fun. And look at these. It's a birds on wires. There's 3 little cardinal birds that come with this kit, so that's what we're going to add into as a fun little embellishment. We got these cute little cardinals. Our Merry Christmas cardinal sign, which is square. I think this is 10 inches. And then it also comes with, of course, the wreath frame, but we cannot have a wreath without our mesh. And this uses just a very simple poly Deco mesh. It's red, but it has a metallic border stripe. Let's take it out of the package. Let's show you what that's going to look like. So for this is 10-inch mesh, and it comes in 10 yards, which is 30 feet. We're not going to use that. We're only going to use, I would say, about 2/3 of this. So we're going to have a lot of that left. Also, you are going to see in your kit, you will have some pipe cleaners. Grab a set of pipe cleaners here. And you're also going to have 2 of these. These are little stick-on. They call these cable tie mounts. So there's 2 different ways that I can mount to the sign. But I actually use a different method, but I'm going to talk about both. So I'll explain both to you as we go. All right, excellent. I'm going to open my pack of pipe cleaners. Your kit will also come with a set of pipe cleaners. There will be 17 pipe cleaners in your kit. That is enough to put on all the mesh. It is enough to put on the sign, and I want to make sure you have enough where if you decide you want to make 3 small bows around the wreath, you'll be able to do that as well. Okay, the first thing we want to talk about is our wreath frame and how we're going to do this. So we have this wreath frame. And when you look at the frame, you're going to see that there are 4 rings that go around the outside, and then there are 6 spines. So we group these together. So the inner rings are rings 1 and 2. The outer rings are rings 3 and 4. So when I say inside and outside, that's what I'm referring to. Okay? And then we're going to take our pipe cleaners and we're going to start making the frame. So I'm going to come up underneath here from underneath ring 2. All right? And I'm kind of positioning this as 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock when I'm talking to you so we can kind of keep that in our mind as we make the wreath. So I'm putting this underneath ring 2. Okay? On the left side of the spine. I'm going to bring it around over the top of ring 1, but now I'm moving it to the right side of the spine. And then I'm going to bring it around underneath ring 2. So before I tighten it, when you look at it, it's making the Harry Potter zigzag shape, right? It's got the lightning bolt shape. That's what we want. Then I'm going to bring this, oops, here we go. Around the second ring, here we go. So it's on the second ring. I'm going to bring it around underneath the second ring, right? So now it's kind of looking like a W shape, okay? You can see that's got a W shape like that. I'm just going to pull it up, pull it real tight, and then give it a good twist, all right? That's what we're going to do all the way around. Underneath ring 2 on the left of the spine, over the top of ring 1, under the bottom of ring 2, now on the right side of the spine, bring it around, over ring 1 again, wrap it up, and then just twist it. What's nice about putting it on the spines is that it means that this is not going to slide back and forth. This is going to be very stationary. So it's not going to go sliding around, because when we're making this wreath, you want to make sure when you pull everything and you twist the pipe cleaners that everything is twisted nice and tight, okay? You don't want any movement of any of these items on your wreath, especially the sign. All right, bring it under, up and around. All right. This part goes pretty quick, and if you make a lot of wreaths and make a lot of thin wreaths, you can even sit and just make some wreath frames while you're sitting in front of the TV. It is pretty mindless once you get to it. Again, let's do this. We're going underneath ring 2 on the left side of the spine. bring it around, over ring 1, now on the right side of the spine, underneath ring 2. Lightning bolt shape. Bring it back up and around, so it comes up over ring, the top of the first ring. Now you have your W shape. Pull it tight and give it a good old twist. There we go. Okay, that is the inside ring. Now on the outside, we're going to do something very similar, but we're going to put it between these spines here, because otherwise you're going to have a ruffle and a ruffle on top of each other, and that doesn't make for a good looking wreath. It'll end up having like little zigzags, and this way it's going to make this a round shape because we're going to have the ruffle there. So we're going to put it on the top of ring 3, wrap it around under 4, bring back over 3 again, underneath 4 again. So we still kind of have that same zigzag shape. We're just not putting it on a spine. And then we're going to pull it. Now I'm going to pull extra tight. And it's okay if it bends in a little bit. You see the ring kind of might bend down or bend inward a little bit, because that means that is going to keep it from sliding back and forth, which is what we want. All right, here we go. I'm going to do this again. Okay, going around. I love making things with a cardinal theme. Not only are they wintry, but you know, the special meaning of cardinals. When it comes to Christmas, it's always a really emotional time for people. It can be wonderful and it can be fabulous. But if you've lost someone, oh gosh, especially if you've lost them around Christmas, it can make things really hard. So having something that reminds you that, hey, our loved ones, they're going to come visit us, and a lot of times people say that they visit us as cardinals. A cardinal is a loved one coming to visit you. And I think that is a lovely thought. All right, here we go. So now we have 6 on the inside, 6 on the outside. So that means we have 12 areas here where we're going to be attaching mesh. We have 12 pieces of mesh that we need to cut. So that's going to be our next step, is bringing out the mesh. All right. Now, I have a mesh roller, but if you don't, that's okay. That's all right. You don't need to have a mesh roller. You don't need the fancy things, right? So you can just put down something on top of the mesh to kind of hold it just so it doesn't move out of place. All right. As you can see over here, when we start, move these cardinals out of the way. I don't want to accidentally run over one of their wires. When you take it out of the package, it may not be exactly straight. It kind of comes in a little bit. So I always like to start by making a nice sharp cut. I'm using a rotary cutter. You can also just use scissors and just cut straight up. You don't need the fancy tools. Okay? That's why this is a nice kit, especially for beginners. Okay? So now I'm going to pull this out. And I'm going to cut this at 18 inches, okay? If you can decide if you want to cut it larger, but I just like to use 18 inches. What this does then is going to give me 12 pieces, and then it'll give me an additional 6 pieces, sometimes 7, that you can use on another wreath. So if you buy 2 wreath kits, try to buy ones that have coordinating mesh if they're thin, because in that way you have enough mesh to make a whole other thin wreath, right? And it's all about trying to save money, maximize how far your supplies will go. Okay, so we're going to cut 12 pieces at 18 inches. 1, 2, 3, and they will re-roll once you cut it. It's going to spring back up together. 4, see how that did that? So I have 4 pieces. What I like to do though is take my mesh, and I do like to kind of lay it underneath something, kind of flatten it out, right? Stacking the mesh, it makes it so it doesn't go flying off your craft table. I think it just makes things feel a little bit more organized, and then you're a little bit happier when you're making your wreath, right? I'm actually going to end up using my scissors as a weight on there. I'm going to move that off to the side. All right, so we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Going all over the table here, huh? 10. Move some of those up there. So I can make my final 2 cuts with nothing in the way. I want to make sure when I cut my mesh that there isn't another piece of mesh I already cut that I'm accidentally going to cut into and make a boo-boo. All right. That makes our 12 pieces of mesh. All right, and then look how much you have left. You have about at least 6 pieces, possibly 7. I'm going to move my mesh roller off the table now to give us more room to work. I was thinking about using it when I cut the mesh, but decided most people don't have a mesh roller, so I want to be able to do this the exact same way that you would at home. Okay? So, here we go. Our next couple of pieces. I like to just maybe grab 2 at a time, kind of put their ends together, and then just kind of unroll them together. If they cooperate, which they're not. All right, and we flatten it out. Here we go. Got another set. Or sometimes I will hold them against my stomach and kind of run them down, but nobody needs to see my tummy on this. Definitely not. And as I'm recording this video, I'm also doing this as a live broadcast over on Facebook for what I call Monday Craft Afternoons. Monday at noon Central, I always go live trying to make a different craft every week. So super fun things we like to make. All right. Now that we have our mesh, I'm going to put the sign on top and kind of keep it flattened out a little bit. That kind of helps. So to move that to the side, I'm going to bring back over and have a wreath frame. Now, I like to cut all my materials before I start, so we are now going to go and cut the ribbons. So I have 3 rolls of ribbons here, okay? Now this first one is red, and it has like a nice weave to it. I've used this before. It does not fray easily. It's very nice, and it's got a nice green wire on the outside. So this really brings in the red of the cardinal, and then the green that's on the sign. So we're going to cut 12 pieces at 14 inches long. You can pull them out and measure them here on a mat with a ruler, whatever you happen to have. But I have a ribbon tail board that I use, so I'm going to measure out 12 of these. So I'm going to start it up there. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's about as much as I would wind around and cut at one time. Any more than that, and it can kind of dull your scissors, and you don't get a really good cut. So I'm pulling that off of there. Okay. So you can see that this kind of is created like a loop, right? So I'm just going to slide the scissors in the top, cut the top half of that, come back in, cut the other side, and now instead of having loops and individual pieces, I now have 12 ribbon tails. All right, here we go. And then this was the one that was inside, so I'm going to trim that off. It was a little bit extra. That wrapped around the back of the board to hold it in place as I was wrapping it. Okay, so there we go. I also like to dovetail my ribbons, so I'm only going to do this in groups of 4 because I don't want to dull my scissors. But I'm going to take 4 ribbons. I'm going to stack them up next to each other. So they're all nice and aligned. I'm going to bend so the wired edges are touching each other. And then I'm going to cut outward from the inside, going outward toward the wire. There we go. That gives you a nice V shape. That's called a dovetail. And that gives it a nice finished look. It looks really pretty on the wreath when you're done. You don't have to dovetail your ribbons. It's a personal choice. But I definitely like to do that on mine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because this is a bit of a thicker ribbon, that's why I'm not cutting as many. If you had a thinner ribbon, you could probably cut at least 6 at a time, probably max. But here we go. Now this kit, if you're watching online as I'm making this now, this kit is available in my shop, sweetariadecor.com. I have really expanded out, and I'm trying to sell a lot of kits, so everything is pre-made. You don't have to worry about trying to understand if your thing's going to match, or they're going to go together. I've got Christmas kits. I still have lots of fall kits. I've got Easter kits. I'm going to have lots of spring kits coming. And then kits that aren't just for thin wreaths. I'm I'm going to think about doing a kit that goes on a grapevine. I have a blue butterfly chinoiserie pattern that I have ordered that is being imported as we speak. So very excited about that. You know, I'm going to take all my little pieces and get them off the table. All right, so now I have 12 of these red ribbons. I'm going to put this off to the side. We're going to use this to make a bow, but we do that later once everything else is on the wreath. Now we're going to do this again. A beautiful beige cardinal ribbon. Cardinals tend to be one of my best sellers when it comes to kits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 ribbons that are cut again at 14 inches. Okay, these are all going to be 14 inches. If you wanted to have a wreath that maybe wasn't as full, you could probably go with a 13-inch. I wouldn't go any less than that. Okay, I'm going to slide my scissors down. Cut that set. Cut this set this way. Awesome. All right, separate them out. Here's that little extra piece that was in there. We can toss that. All right, I'm going to try to cut this as a set of 6. So let me cut that together. Just make sure you have really good sharp scissors so you get a nice sharp cut at the end. Okay. Going to the other side. I like the beige, and I went with the beige because I did want to bring in some feeling of the rustic of the outside. And it also has the wood, it's like a wood grain on the background of that, which I thought was a really nice touch. It was very fun going in and ordering all the supplies for the kids. I have to go back and do some more, but and before I can do more, I have to keep selling the kits that I have, because, you know, money. I used to do a lot of kits that don't have videos, and that's because I was able to make perhaps like 3 or 4 kits based on how I got the supplies. But I didn't really get to buy a lot in bulk. So now that I'm buying more in bulk, I'm able to do more videos, because if I did a video showing how to make a wreath that I had 3 of, then I'd only have 2 kits left to sell. All right, cardinals going off to the side. Now, this is going to be personal choice. On your 1.5-inch ribbon, you do not have to do tails with this. You can just save this and add it into the bow as a little accent. But I do like to add in this as a tail. If I've got this much ribbon, and I love it. This pattern, it goes with so much. It can be gingerbread. It can go with peppermint. It can go with Santa. I mean, I love this. I gotta more of this actually. Okay, I'm gonna do 14-inch tails again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here we go. And the best part is there's still so much left on here, even after we make the bow for the wreath. There's probably enough to even make another bow after that, so that'll be fun. Just sliding that off. Again, these were 14 inches, making 12 pieces. So here we go. Get that little piece out. And on the other end. Here we go, cutting through there. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Let's cut. I'm going to do this actually in groups of 4. Because when it comes to the thinner ribbon, if your cuts don't look as centered, if you're trying to cut too many at a time. So I'm going to do this in groups of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just put them together. And make sure when you're cutting it that you're getting, sometimes the inside pieces are a little further down. So don't be afraid to go down a little further with your scissors and make sure you're getting all those cut into that nice V shape. Otherwise, you might have to recut some of your ends, and nobody wants to redo this anymore. There we go. It's 1 set. Maybe a cut more than 4. So I'm just gonna grabbing and cutting. Here we go. The dovetails. The more wreaths you make, the more you're gonna find these little pieces scattered all over your house. I try very hard to put them back into the garbage can right away, but it doesn't always happen. And then I end up finding them all over. That's okay. when I first started making wreaths, I would actually save these tails and put them in a jar so I could kind of see some of the patterns of ribbons that I had used. And that was kind of fun for a little while. And then I started making way too many wreaths, and my jar got too big. Here we go. Sometimes if there's a particular ribbon that I've loved and I can't get it anymore, or it's the last piece of it, I will save a tiny piece of it and just hold on to it. Because I'm strange and I'm a hoarder. Okay, here we go. So now all of our materials are cut. We have our wreath frame. We've got all of our ribbons here off to the side. We've got our mesh, our frame. I can finally take the sign. I'm just going to put that off to the side a little bit. All right, and it's gonna roll up like that, which it does. I just kind of start pulling from the bottom, just kind of pull off one at a time. Okay, so how we are going to do this with our frame is we're going to lay this mesh nice and flat. Okay, curl side down. You see the mesh wants to curl, right? We're going to go curl side down because we want this to be thinner. If you're not worried about how thick your wreath is, you can always do the cruffle method. What the cruffle is you would kind of curl the ends in from the outside a little bit like that, and then you would ruffle it up the middle, and you would make what's called a cruffle. And you can do that. Doing that though may not make it as full. You might have to add an additional layer of mesh, so you could have 2 of these ruffles in one spot if you wanted to, like add 1 on the inside and 2 on the outside. So that's an option as well. You could cut the rest of the mesh if you wanted to, but we're going to focus on making this a thin wreath. So we're going curl side down. Make it as flat as you can. Now we're going to start gathering it right up the center, like this. Going right up the middle, right up the middle, right up the middle, and boom. And it looks like a little piece of farfalle pasta, right? It looks like a little bow tie. We're going to go and we're going to start on the outside. So I'm not opening these. I'm going to keep the pipe cleaners close together. I'm just going to set it on top, right on the center. And then I'm just going to bring it up and just give it one good twist. All right. Now it's going to look like kind of like a butterfly. You're like, well, that doesn't look right, because we have to take our ends, bring them around, and have them cover each other. So it ends up making a circle, okay? Like a little pancake. Now, credit where credit is due. I learned this method from Melissa with Sincerely Creative Mom. She's also one of the creative coaches with Deco Exchange. So this is the method that I learned from her. She has a lot of fantastic videos as well for making thin wreaths. So there we go. That is the first one. Now, there's 2 ways you can go about this. You can put all the mesh on first and then go put on all the ribbons. So we're going to do that. So there's a lazier method. I'm going to do the lazy method on the top. I'm going to do the regular slower method here along the bottom to show you guys how it's done. Okay, so we've got one ruffle on there. Let's get another one. Going right up the center. You can almost hear a scraping sound, like nails on a chalkboard. You're going to go put that on the second one. Bring this up, find the pipe cleaner, give it a good twist, and then overlap your ends. I like to go left over right. That's just me, all right? I'm going to actually take the ones that are going for the inside, and I'm going to poke them into the inside just so that they don't get in the way of us putting on the outside mesh. Okay, let's grab our next one. Typically, I haven't been selling a lot of wreaths at my craft shows, but I did sell a couple over last weekend, which made me very excited. So that means I get to make more. So yay, that's why I'm making this kit today. Also, so I'll have a nice video that can show you how to make these kits. Now, this concept isn't just specific to this kit, okay? You can use this concept to make wreaths on your own with your own supplies, or to use other kits. The main thing is basically trying to find what size sign is on there and where the sign placement is and where the bow placement is. So you can look in my directory over on YouTube. I have a whole library of videos that have lots of thin wreaths. And then you can kind of look for, well, what looks like how I want to place my bow. Like, do you want your bow in the top corner? Do you want your bow underneath the sign? especially with like the 10-inch square signs. It does take up a lot of space around the wreath, so your bow placement is a little trickier, but that's okay. Got lots of different solutions. I've seen people, they make the kits and they go and they do their own twist on it, and then they'll put a picture of it on my Etsy store when they're reviewing the kit, and I just love to see what people do with the kits. You know, you can embellish it even more if you want to. There's little attachments that you like, right? So this can just be the basis for, you know, for making a wreath. You know, what really makes it yours is the individual twists that you put on it yourself. No two wreath makers make the same thing the same way. And guess what? Once you've made one wreath, you are officially a wreath maker and you are in the club. Yes, you are. All right, this is the last one for the outside. Oh, I snagged some of my ribbon there. Stay there, ribbon tails. We don't need you just yet. Patience, my love. Patience. Okay, it's going over the last one. Okay, so now we have all 6 that are done on the outside. So it measures 22 inches max, okay? And then there we go. That's how thin it is. And it's going to get a little bit thinner once we add another layer on here. This will kind of calm down and lay down and flatten out even more. Okay, I'm going to move that mesh to the side for a moment. All right. Alrighty. Now we have 3 sets of ribbons here. How are we going to be displaying these ribbons? Well, let me show you. Here we go. Give me just a moment. I'm doing something off on the side here. All right. Here we go. We are going to layer these. So I like to put the most plain basic pattern I like to put at the bottom. And then I'm going to layer on some cardinals. Now, this is what we call directional ribbon. Do you see how the cardinals have, there's an up, a clear up, and a clear down. I like to put them where the up is facing left, right? So I'm putting it like this, kind of laying it flat like that, because we want them going all in the same direction when we put them on the wreath. Okay, and here we go. That's the last one, okay? You're going to bend them in half. It doesn't have to be exactly, but just kind of bring the ends together of the ribbon, push down in the middle, so you're going to make a crease. Bring it up, and then we're going to pinch up there, okay? Then I'm going to kind of bend this down into a V shape. I find that that helps. We're going to open up these twists. I'm going to set this in here, and we're going to pull it. Here we go. All right. Now I'm going to separate these out. Okay, so we want to just really wiggle them free from each other. When we separate it out, it means just basically so they all move independently of each other. So I went red, cardinal plaid, and I do red, cardinal plaid. That's one way of doing it, okay? That's where it's basically kind of staggered. You can do something like this, where you can put the red on the outside, and then the cardinals, and then those 2 more on the inside as well. And that's another way to do it. But I typically like to stagger, so that's how I'm going to do it. Again, like I said before, the way you do it is unique to you, and that's what's going to make you yours. Do your own preference. This is your wreath. No one but you is grading you on how you do it, right? This isn't school. You don't have to have anxiety about, oh my gosh, is it going to be perfect? Nothing is ever perfect. So I think a lot of times people who craft tend to get a little paralyzed with, okay, how am I going to do this? And you've got the materials in front of you, and you just get so paralyzed with so many different options that it's very hard to actually make yourself start. So don't let that paralyze you. Just get on going. Just start cutting and doing, and it will take shape. The wreath will let you know what it wants. All right? Bend this again into a V shape. That is already open. And you see how I opened that up and the mesh did not come out, because that's already kind of pre-squished from when it was sitting in there. So it behaves itself. All right, separate these out. There we go. Separate them out. All right. So you know what, actually I forgot to mention what I'm going to do is to get rid of the rest of the pipe cleaner, we're going to wrap it up. We want to leave about 1 inch. So I've twisted it all together so it's one piece. Okay, you see that's one piece. And then I'm just going to snip it so it's about 1 inch. And do you remember where the mesh went over each other? I call this the butt crack. Okay, we're going to push this through the butt crack of where that mesh was, and then just bring those layers back over again. So it's basically kind of closing up the hole. And there we go. Now, the more you make this, the ribbons are going to want to go back to their natural positions. They're going to just have to, it's going to take a little while for them to learn where they need to be, but then they'll calm down, all right? It's like they just got here. They don't know where they need to go, but they will learn. By the time you're done, everything's going to be exactly where you want it. So that's what I'm doing. Now, on the bottom layer, I'm cutting all this. I'm going to be adding some berries to the top layer. So I'm pushing it behind the button. Here we go. So when we do that, we're going to leave some of these a little longer because we're going to use those to attach the berries. Okay, here we go. Move this over. All right, and it just kind of helps, just kind of put your finger underneath the ribbons. Just kind of help them figure out where they want to go, right? I'm very excited to see how this turns out. I have not made one of these cardinal kits yet with the sign, so I'm really super excited to see it. All right, here we go again. We've got our ribbons stacked, bend, crease, pinch, V-shape, twist into the pipe cleaners, nice and tight, twist up 1 inch, snip, open the butt cheeks, push it on through so it wraps kind of around the back of it, bring the butt cheeks back together. Unclench and reclench, I guess is how you can kind of think of it. Sorry, I'm not trying to be gross, but that's just who I am. That's just who I am. We're sticking it in the booty. All right. Here we go. Red, cardinal, plaid. Bend and fold, crease, pinch, the V. Put it in the pipe cleaner, pinch and twist 1 inch. Snip the extra. Put it between the butt cheeks and separate your ribbon tails. So as you're watching this, if you bought this kit or you're watching this on YouTube, once you get the hang of this, if you want to fast forward, you can. I would say just fast forward to the part where we start putting them on the top, because that's where I'm going to show you that other method was what I call the lazy pancake. Okay. There we go. 2 more on the bottom. It goes pretty fast. Once you get used to making these, it goes pretty darn quick. And I have my friends on Facebook watching me make this, so I want to give a quick shout out to Trisha from the UK. Hello. And my aunt made it home. My aunt came out to see me this morning. It was wonderful to see her. It had been too long. We are going out for Thanksgiving, which I'm very excited about. I have a craft show the week before and the week after Thanksgiving, so it'll be nice not to cook this year. So we're going to go out, but then we're going to come back by me for dessert, which I think is always the best part of every holiday. Do some pumpkin pie, but not everybody's a pumpkin pie fan, so I'm going to see what else I'm going to pick up. I'm going to go see what Costco will have. Or Sam's Club. Or both. We recently had a big realization within our family. We did a little testing and determined that we prefer the Sam's Club toilet paper over the Costco. I've been buying Costco for years. It doesn't go as far, but the Sam's Club is a little softer, but you do go through it faster. These are the kinds of things that me and my adult kids and stepkids like to talk about. The important things in life, right? It is nice having a membership to both, though. but they're on different opposite ends of where I live, so I don't do both in one day. But they had fantastic ribbon there this year. Sam's and Costco had great ribbon. I used them to make my candy cane frames for a lot of that, and they turned out fantastic. I just can't find more of those candy cane frames. I got them from Dollar Tree last year, and I saved them, and I made them this year, but I haven't seen the frames yet this year. So last year they came out, I think it was after Christmas was when I even found them. So I'm really hoping they come out early and soon, but I check every morning. It's the first thing I do when I open my phone is check for those frames. I'm a bit obsessed. Okay, we now have 6 sets of ribbons on the outside of our wreath. And it still is kind of measuring about 22 inches, so it didn't go out too much further. Look how thin that is right now. That is pretty darn thin, right? This is still, go down there. All right, so now we have to do our inside rings. So I'm going to separate these so I can grab my pipe cleaners, and I want to pull them up just so I don't have to struggle to find them as I'm putting the rest of the mesh in. So I'm just going to pull them up. It takes a couple seconds, but it really will make your life a lot easier. Pull them up. Find that set and pull them up. It's just between wherever the 2 sets of ruffles meet, okay? So you can see they're all 6. Okay, now we're going to do the lazy pancake. I'm going to put on the mesh, and then I'm going to put on the ribbon. And then I'm going to put on the mesh, and then I'm going to put on the ribbon. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'll be done. But you do have to kind of watch where your ribbon tails end up. You just have to put your ribbons, you might have to move your ribbons a tiny bit when we're done. Okay, so here we go. There's my mesh piece. Wrapping this up. Going up, 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 up. Up, 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 up. Here we go. All right, I'm going to start right here. All right, we're going to put that mesh down and make sure it goes all the way down onto the ring. Push it down hard and give it a good hard twist, okay? Because there's mesh underneath it, so it might make it puff up a little bit. You want to make sure you really get that where it needs to go on the wreath. And then pull it into your round shape. Now, it might try to snag a little bit on some of the other mesh, but that's okay. You just got to pull it into your round shape, okay? I'm going to leave that twisted. I'm going to go make my ribbons now. The same like we did before, exactly the same, stacking the same, pulling them out the same. But you definitely always have to do your bottom layer first. Otherwise, you end up having to move things, and it makes things then start to snag and fray. So it's much easier to do outside ring and then inside ring. So bottom layer, then top layer. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to leave 2 of these unsnipped. Okay, I'm going to leave it unsnipped, snipped, and unsnipped because, actually maybe just 1. So I'm going to have my berries coming in. Actually, I'm going to leave them all unsnipped for now until I figure out how I want to put my berry twigs on there. I'm going to do it as a method that's really easy for beginners so that you don't have to worry about cutting anything or gluing anything. We might just have to shorten the stems on those berry picks. But that'll be nice and easy. You, however, probably are going to need some hot glue a little bit to get the cardinals to kind of stay in place. They are on a wire, but sometimes we like to add just a little bit extra to make sure it doesn't go moving around. All right, so that was 1. Let's go to our next one. I'm going to grab my piece of mesh. Trisha is a wreath maker too. Awesome. Do you follow Carrie over in the UK? She is just fabulous. Carries wreaths for all occasions. She's fantastic. I've met her several times. She is just the sweetest, friendliest. She's actually the last person I hung out with when I went to Wreath Makers Live in Houston. I was hanging out with them at the bar before my Uber came at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. It was an early flight, so I just stayed up all night because it was the cheapest flight. All right, here we go. Bending it. Here we go. It's always really fun to meet up with fellow wreath makers and talk with fellow wreath makers because you guys know the obsession with ribbon and materials. I mean, we could talk some of this stuff for hours, right? This is uneven, so I'm just going to snip just a little bit off there. Here we go. And again, if you're watching on Facebook, this is a kit available in my shop, Sweet Aria Decor. I spent weeks putting kits together and bagging them up so everything is all in one bag ready to go. It comes with everything you need to make a wreath, even the instructions. What it does not come with is the energy or the snacks that you will need to get you through. Okay, again, I'm just scraping up. This is curl side down. We are scraping up our mesh. Here we go. Got our little ruffle. Pushing that all the way down onto that metal frame. Getting it on there. Here we go. Give it a good twist. Now we make our pancake shape. We layer the left over the right or right over left, however you prefer. But I like to put it the same way on both sides. All right. It doesn't have to be perfect either. More ribbon. We're getting close to being done with this. This has gone pretty fast. But just remember, if you're watching this on the video, you bought the kit, you don't have to do this all in one sitting. Like, my back hurts. So if this were just me at home without being live, I probably would sit down or take a break right now. Right? You don't have to do it all at once. Here we go. Leave that up. I will cut that off once I get closer to knowing where I'm going to put my sign. We still have to talk about how to do the sign as well. And we'll show different placement options. We'll talk different places for the bow. Because again, how I make it right now, well, that's how I'm choosing to make it. You want to make it how you want it. Maybe you don't like things center. Or maybe you don't like things off center. That to me is, I think, more of an issue. Sometimes people, I like things to be symmetrical, but I can handle having a bow like on the upper left of a wreath. Or like if there's two of them. It's just all about making sure it feels balanced. Okay, twisting. Layering to get our round pancake shape. Layer that over that. Okay. That's going to stay twisted. Aren't we all a little bit twisted? Especially the closer we get to the holidays. Right now, as I'm recording this, this is October 27th, and I am already thinking about how I'm going to get my Christmas tree up here later tonight. Crazy, right? But it's big, and it's 3 pieces, so I'm going to bring up 1 piece a day. My stepkids don't live in the basement anymore. I'm just here with the 12-year-old, and she's not much help when it comes to carrying things. So that's why it's going to take me a couple days. I'm going to leave that broken up. There we go. I'm not going to put that in the butt crack yet, but I am going to make sure that I've got my ribbons all nice and separated. And then once we finish putting on the ribbons, we're going to go all around and do a ribbon check. We're going to check our tails. Check your tails. All right. 2 more to do. Making progress. There we go. I do actually have several different types of cardinal kits in my shop. This is just one that comes with 3 little cardinals on a wire and the square sign. But there are multiple cardinal kits that I have, again, because they sell really well for me, and I think people like that. They also make great gifts. If you're trying to gift something to someone who perhaps has lost a loved one this year, it's nice to do something that just, helps them, give them a little remembrance. My cousin passed in December, and my husband had passed the previous year in December, 4 days before Christmas. So December is really a hard month for a family. But having the cardinals around kind of makes it feel a little bit easier. I think when you've lost someone and you're going through a holiday, it's just nice to talk to the person who's lost someone and just, acknowledge that and say, hey, I know you might be having a hard time this holiday, and maybe ask them to share memories of their loved one with you. When you say their name, when you talk about them, I truly believe that their spirit comes to visit you. And, it's just a way to reconnect to them, and you may not be able to hear them, but if you sit really quietly and you just listen to yourself breathing, you may be able to kind of just feel them around you, Anyway, I feel my husband a lot. And I think he's mad that I'm not putting on more college football for him to watch, but sorry. I hope Heaven has some ESPN channels because I'm not putting on sports on our TV. I'm just not into it. He would go watch his sporting stuff and I would come craft. Just like he supported my crafting. He loved that I crafted, but he hated going into craft stores. There's like nothing, no worse hell on earth for him than going into a craft store. So he did come into a craft store for me twice when I needed help pushing a cart, but he was not happy about it, and I had to grant him a couple favors when we got back. After that, I remember being at Joann once, and I had like 3 carts because some of their Christmas stuff at the time, that ribbon was I think like 75% off, and I was a newer crafter and I didn't have a lot of stash, so I really grew my ribbon collection that year. But boy, he was not happy about having to come inside. It wasn't so much that, it was having to stand there and wait in line to check out. So yeah. But he always supported me doing my crafts. And I know he's watching me from heaven, looking at the mess of the garage going, girl, what did you do to my garage? Because it's now a warehouse. It's okay. It's the life of an entrepreneur. I wish you were here to kind of see what I built, but I know he's watching. Well, maybe not. Not watching me make stuff because, he's watching the game. Okay, now we've got everything done. I've got all these still sitting up on top. I did not trim off the extra pipe cleaner. But you'll notice when I did the lazy pancake, because now, see, this mesh kind of is over the ribbon. So when I said we had to go check our ribbon tails, we're just going to make sure that our ribbon is over the mesh. We're just going to go, and it's just around the top is where we really have to worry about it. Making sure that our ribbons are not under the mesh. There we go. Fix that over there. It's just a real quick fix. That is the only difference that I have seen in whether we put on all the mesh and then all the ribbons or whether we do the lazy method. And then that's right over there. All right, so now we get to talk fun stuff, the sign. Talking about the sign, baby. Here we go. Here's our sign. First of all, cut off this jute thing on the back. This is meant to just hang it for storage. Do not use this to hang your wreaths unless you're going to secure it with something on the bottom. Otherwise, your sign's going to swing side to side, and it's going to be a mess. It's going to make noise, and it's not going to hold up well. Okay, so here's our sign. If we put it just in the center, you can kind of still see some of the pipe cleaner spots. So, I mean, if you're okay with that, you can kind of get it as close to as you can. But then that doesn't really leave us a lot of good spots for a bow. So if you don't want a bow, this would be a great placement for your sign like this. If you want to do a bow on the corner, you can always pull this down to the side and you can put a bow up here, right? You can do that. You can put the sign up here and then put the bow at the bottom and then the berries at the bottom so they kind of come out like that. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do. I'm torn between doing this method with that down at the bottom and then or doing down this with with the birds. I think I'm going to put it down at the bottom because what I also want to do, let's lay this out. I'm going to show you my method here. I'm at the bow at the bottom. So if I put that up there, I will have these two laid in here. And that's why I kept this pipe cleaner like that, okay? I didn't cut it because I'm going to use it. I will have a bow down here. But then I also have to consider the individual placements for these cute little birds on a wire, okay? So I would want to then put them, I'm trying to put it on the side. This is not going to be exact, but I want to kind of sprinkle them. One there. Oh no, he went over the top. One on the top, and then another one on the side. Hold please, I need to go retrieve the cardinal. I am retrieving the cardinal. Cardinal down, bird down, bird down. And of course I have a big old backdrop up behind it. So here we go. My apologies for that. I hope I remember to edit this part out before I post the video, because otherwise that would be kind of fun. All right, and here's the other bird. He's going to go over the 3 o'clock position here. All right. So I'm kind of thinking of doing that. So they're kind of like up at the top. All right, and then we've got this. And this can kind of almost come up. It doesn't have to be straight across. This can kind of be like a little bit on the side. And then we're going to have our bow at the bottom. Now, I just have to make sure, though, that my bow does not come up above the lettering that says Merry Christmas. Okay? So, if that's going to be what we're going to do, I'm going to move everything back. All right? Take that out. We need to attach the sign. So, there's different ways to do it. The first method is going to be using the materials that I gave you. All right, so we're going to have our sign. Pull it over here. These are cable tie mounts, okay? So they come with an adhesive on here. You would take off the adhesive strip. You would use a really good adhesive such as a tube of E6000. That is a craft adhesive, so this is not hot glue. You could use super glue, right, or E6000. You would put that on here, and then you would put the sign there, okay? Now, I'm looking at where I'm going to have the cable tie mounts, and I think that'll be fine to kind of put them just a little bit higher up, not necessarily center, but a little higher up. Okay, so they would go roughly like there and there, okay? You would have the E6000 under there, you'd push it down, and then you would go all around the edges of that with the hot glue gun, okay? So that's how that would work. You know what? I might do that method. The other method is using a staple gun. Okay. So what you would do is, I save the rolls that the mesh comes on. So this is part of the cardboard tube that's in the center of the mesh roll. Okay. And I would just cut some squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would need 2 on either side because my staples are longer. So I'd want to have 2 on either side. Okay, so I would press this down nice and flat, get a nice flat cardboard. And then we would staple that onto there. I would add 2 staples on either side. Staple, 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 staple. Okay, that is what I would do to get it secure. But I want to show you the E6000 method. Okay, so we are going to do this. Now, it does not come with E6000. You can get it from Amazon, Hobby Lobby has it. This is a very common adhesive. You may also be able to get this, this is industrial strength adhesive. You can try the hardware store. There's lots of places that would have this. So I'm going to taking off the backing on my little adhesive pieces, okay? And then I'm just going to, this one is a little harder here. I'm going to have to go get some. Here we go. It adhered, so I have to kind of find a way to get this off. Come on, come off. It is stuck. It is very clearly stuck. No, those are snips. I'm trying to find, I moved my pliers. Here we go. Here we go. This is going to work. Oh, yeah. Bringing in the big guns. All right, sometimes your thing will kind of adhere. You just got to, there we go. Oh, yay, it worked. Woohoo. All right. Now, put this back on real quick when you're done, okay? So I'm going to add a little dab in the center, like less than the size of a dime, okay? You don't need that much. And then you can also use super glue, right? But I prefer to use this. And I just put the cap back on right away because otherwise it does keep shooting out of the tube. All right, put that not center, but just about maybe an inch above center, okay? Making sure they're kind of equal on both sides. All right, hold that on there. Now I'm going to go around here with the hot glue gun. I'm making sure I catch not just the plastic, but on the sign. It needs to be both on the plastic and the sign. And be generous with it, right? Be generous because this hot glue is what's holding it on there until that E6000 cures, because that can take like a day to really fully set up. All right. Getting a lot of it on there. All right. Don't touch it yet. That stuff is still hot. It will burn you. It will be painful. In the meantime, I'm going to come over here and kind of prepare these. I am going to take my tags off of these berries. And I like these berries because they're foam and they're really lightweight, so it's not adding a lot of heaviness over here onto this. All right, so here we go. It's kind of, you don't really have to fluff this one up too much. It's already looking pretty good. It doesn't really bend a whole lot. You don't want to break anything up, but you can kind of bend this. You see how it's 3 pieces? It's kind of bending it that way. It's really opening it up a little bit. Maximize what you can get in terms of your height or your width, See, bending it to the side a little bit. There we go. Now it's a little bit wider. You got more coverage. It's going to be great. Okay, that is still hot. All right. You know what? Let's let that sit. Let's make the bow. While we are waiting, we're going to make the bow because I want that to really sit. So that's why I usually do staple on, so I don't have to wait for it to dry, but that's okay. So now this bow is going to be sitting at the bottom at the 6 o'clock position. We don't want it to be too huge, but we do want it to kind of be able to go over and kind of cover these spots where those pipe cleaners are. So I typically like to have my first layer be 6 inches. Now your tails, you can either choose to have it kind of have like the typical 7-inch, 6-inch tail, or you can have them come longer. If it does come longer, it'll kind of start to fold underneath that wreath a little bit. So I'm going to make this one a little bit longer. But when we're constructing this bow, we want it to be wide but flat, okay? Because if you're thinking this is going on a storm door, it needs to look pretty even if the glass is almost right up against it or on it. So we're going to start with our red layer, okay? Now this is the Easy Bows Design Pro. I do have a link to this, an affiliate link that's in my bio and in my link tree. But I love this. I love using a bow maker because I have issues with the tendons in my hands and I cannot hold on to things for a very long time or grip really hard. So this makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to start with my red. And I always like to start, I dovetail it first, but you can dovetail it when you're done if you want, just to make sure it's all even. So let's do a tail. A bit of a longer tail. I'm going to do a tail that is 10 inches. Okay, so it's measured to 10 inches here. I put it in the bow maker. Now here, the whole secret to bow making, whether you're holding it by hand or whether you are using a tool, is having a really good pinch and twist in the center here. So give it, don't be gentle, nice hard pinch and twist. Now this is the opposite back side of the ribbon. It's hard to tell because there's no pattern, but this is the back side. We're going to bring that loop over and we're going to hit it at 6 inches. And there, as I push down, I'm pinching and twisting. Okay? So give it a nice good pinch and twist. And then this is the back side of the ribbon. We're going to, again, bring it back over onto 6 inches. Kind of put it through here. All right? Now I have 1 tail and 2 loops. I want this to be a little more full, so I'm going to do another set of loops. Okay, pinch and twist. 6 inches. Pinch and twist. 6 inches. Pinch and twist. Okay, now let's move our loops up and down. Let's play around with it. It's looking good. Okay, down, that one up. So if I have my loop come up on the right and then down in the bottom, then we're going to do opposite. So that top loop that's on the left is going to come down and that bottom loop is going to go up. Now I'm going to cut this just past 10, okay? Because I'm going to dovetail it and I need to be able to have some dovetail area to cut off. So I'm going to dovetail that. Okay? And then this bow. Perfect, there we go. This is our bottom layer. Now, these don't have to be super full. They can, now that we've done it, don't push it down. You don't want to crease the end of it, but you can keep it a thinner, narrower profile, or you can fluff it up if it's not a worry for you. Okay, now we're going to work on this. Now, here's the tricky part, my friends. I said before, this is directional ribbon, so we're going to have to watch how we do this. So I'm going to dovetail to start with. We're going to do this in 2 sets. We're going to do a tail, a loop, and then a smaller tail that's going to come up that way. Okay? And then we're going to cut it, and then we're going to do the same going the opposite direction. So I'm starting here on the right, going to the left. Now, I like to come up 1 inch. So this one is hitting at 9 inches at the tail. Okay, so I put it in here, and I'm pinching and twisting. Okay, so I got my 9-inch tail, pinched and twisted. I'm looking at the back side of the ribbon. Now, if that was at 6 inches, I want this loop to come around and be, let's do 5.5 inches. Okay, a little bit smaller. Okay, and I don't have to pinch and twist because I'm going to bring this tail up. Now, I'm going to cut this even with that loop. Okay, but we're going to make it smaller by giving it a dovetail. Okay. Okay, so cardinals facing up, and this is kind of in the middle, so we don't really have to twist it because this is kind of filling in that space between there, so it's kind of like sideways. So he's okay. You could actually add in another loop if you wanted to, but I'm trying to keep this narrower. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but from the other side. I'm going to start on the left. Okay, starting on the left, 9 inches down there. I'm going to pinch and twist. I'm going to make my 5-inch loop. All right. And then bring this up. And I'm going to cut this again at the same length that that loop is. And then it goes shorter because we dovetail it. So you always want your next layer to be shorter than the one before it. Okay? So then these kind of come up and they form. There we go. Everyone is happy. No one is upside down. These guys are sideways, but that's not upside down. So in my book, that's okay. All right. Now our top layer. So we're going to put this down in here. Our top layer is that crosshatch pattern. So I'm going to snip it. Snip, snippy. All right. And that's going to be 8 inches on the tail. So it's going to be an 8-inch tail. Pinch and twist. Bring it around. Loop that in. And now this one is going to be 4.5 inches. Okay, so I'm coming in a whole inch this time. So 4.5 inches. Pinched and twisted. Looking at that side. Bring it over. 4.5 inches. Okay. Pinch and twist. All right. I'm going to do another loop. 4.5 inches. Pinch and twist. Another loop. 4.5 inches. Pinch and twist. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of loops. Oh, wait, there's more. We're going to do one more. All right. Trust me on this. We're going to do one more loop. Okay. 4.5. On this side, we are going to make a very small loop. I would say it's about 2 inches. I can fit 3 fingers in here. Okay. All right. And then we're going to have this tail. We said pull it back out. Cut it at 8.5. So that you have enough to dovetail. And you're like, why is there one extra loop on that side? Because we're going to I like to take the middle one, bring it up, and that's going to be our center loop. It's going to go between these tails. Now we're going to have that one up and this one down. Okay, so it's going to go between every beige spot. So one there, one here, and then it comes down. All right. And then this little one, once we finish with the bow, this is going to come up and it's going to be our little center loop. It's going to be perfect. All right, so take one of your pipe cleaners. Hold this whole thing together. Keeping it together. You can zip tie it if you want, but make sure there's pipe cleaner on the back. I'm just going to use a pipe cleaner to wrap around the whole thing, okay? So I'm going to bring the pipe cleaner around, make sure it's kind of centered. Push it down. Now give a really good 2 twists, right? There we go. And now it looks like this. You're like, well, that don't look so good. Oh, we got to flip it. Okay. Run your fingers down the tails. Okay. What that does is that gets that wire to start curling under. Now let's fluff the top layer. It's going to go there, there, there. Here's where the magic comes. Boop. Center loop. Oh, so pretty. That goes on either side of the plaid. That goes between every spot where we have Cardinal. Okay, so everything layers nicely. You got line of sight into every loop and every tail. And that is how we do our bow. All right, perfect. I'm going to move my bow maker behind. There we go. All right. I'm not going to put the bow on yet because now this has dried. So we're going to put our sign on here. So I'm going to take this, and there's holes right here. It just slides right through. You see that? Slides right on through. Halfway through, just bring it up. Give it a nice twist, okay? You don't have to do too hard, remember, because it's just held on here right now by the hot glue. The E6000 has not yet cured. All right, give it a good twist. Okay. So now, I'm going to put this on upside down because I just want to work closer to me so I'm not reaching over. Okay, so our sign is going to be up at the top. It's going to go, put your wreath like a clock, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're going to talk about it like it's a clock, okay? That's going to go here. So these are going to go, these here are going to go in these spots at 4 and 6, or 4 and 8 o'clock. So I can snip these to leave an inch. And I can snip this and leave an inch because that's going to get covered too. And I can just go and we're going to push that behind. Just like we did previously, but we just kind of waited till we were done, till we knew how we were going to embellish the wreath, okay? Now, these pipe cleaners are just going to go right over these same spots that we have right here, okay? And I like to lift up the wreath and kind of feel it. You can guide it with your hands. So I'm going, one pipe cleaner is going over ring 1, and then it's straddling it and coming out on the other side of ring 2. All right, and then for right now, I'm just going to give it a light little twist just underneath to hold it in place while I get the other one on. Okay, so again, we're going to straddle. We're going to go right over where those other pipe cleaners are. Now, we don't have to try to struggle. You really don't ever want to try to push your pipe cleaner between your mesh. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes I'm a do as I say, not as I do kind of gal. All right. Make sure it looks centered and good. Make sure also that you've covered the pipe cleaner at the 12 o'clock position, okay? Now flip it over. Now we can do our nice tighter pull, okay? I like to just kind of twist the rest of this. All right. And then I just twist it around the frame. The reason I don't cut it is because if I end up flipping it over and decide I don't like the placement, I want to be able to have enough on here that I can move it. As my cousin Jenny would say, she loved that from Madagascar. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. But I don't want to have to move it if I don't have to. All right, just wrap that around the frame, okay? So there's nothing on here that's going to scratch your door. All right, here we go. Now let's move our ribbons into the correct locations, okay? Now, once we get our bow and berries on, the last thing we're going to put on are the cardinals. So we're going to do those last, okay? Bring it over. You can feel free to get as close to the sign as you want and pull that tail over, all right? So you get a lot of good coverage. It's going to want to kind of go back into its separate groups where it's, you know, the left and the right side. But just make sure that they come together, all right? There we go. Looking good. I like it. I like it. All right. Now, it's time for the berries. Woohoo! So I'm going to bring over the berries. We will also need the bow for this. So when I put the berries on, I do still have these longer stems over here, right? So I can leverage this. So what I'm trying to do is use these 2 pipe cleaners. So I'm going to open up a little bit to hold on to these berries. So that way I don't have to use any glue on this. So I'm going to open these up, untwist. All right, and they'll stay in there. They're not going to go anywhere. The ribbons aren't going to pop out. because it's been sitting in there a while, so those creases are made, okay? So I've got these open. And then I'm going to do the same in the center. I'm going to reopen the center. There we go. It's so exciting, and we're almost done. Isn't this fun, guys? All right. So we're going to see the stem here? That's going to go into this part, and then this is going to go into here, okay? So we may not even need to cut any of the stem. We can if we want to, but you may not have a stem cutter, so I want to make sure you don't have to do that. All right, so I think that's a good placement, but I really need to hold my bow over where I think it's going to be centered. Okay, because my bow is going to try to go down there as much as I can. I'm going to get a little lower. Get my sign a little higher. There we go. All right, so I think that's good because it's kind of, I don't want to cover too much of the berries. All right, but that's going to kind of come out. You can have it go straighter if you wanted to, but I like it kind of coming up so it's not really sticking out. But then, see, we're separating out those branches, okay? So to me, this looks great, all right? So I'm going to have to put another one in here, so I'm not doing that yet. But over here on this one, I'm just taking this red pipe cleaner. I've got that stem in there now, and I'm just retwisting it with the stem right in there. All right? And then I'm just going to poke this, and poke it back in between the mesh. And now with the red berries, you can't even see it. All right, let's do that on the other side. All right? That was kind of a little bit underneath that empty part of the stem right when the tape starts. That's kind of where that was. So let's get that in there like that. All right. Sorry, I'm sticking my face in here. You're like, lady, get your head out of the shot. Sorry, especially because I have no makeup on. Let's not scare everybody. All right. All right, twisting it, pushing back in there. There we go. All right. Now I can twist this in the center. And now you don't have to worry about, oh, is the glue going to fail or my berries going to fall off, because they're twisted and they're in here with the pipe cleaner. They're not going anywhere. Boom. If you do have a stem cutter and you want to cut off some of the extra stem down here, you can. I'm just going to snip off a couple inches. All right. There we go. But honestly, your bow is going to cover it. So we're going to put the bow, just like we did with the sign. These pipe cleaners are going to straddle that section right there, okay? So we're just going to put one above and one below. All right, so I've got my hands underneath so I can kind of feel with my fingers where those pipe cleaners are coming through. And then I'm going to poke it through on the bottom. All right, so it's above ring 1, coming out underneath ring 2. All right. All right, I'm giving it a nice tug. I'm going to try and make sure it kind of comes down. Again, we don't want the tails getting in the way of the writing. So that that loop was kind of like the center. We're going to try to push that. We're going to fix that in a minute, okay? So I'm twisting. Here we go. Let's turn this over. I'm just twisting the rest of that pipe cleaner and just wrapping it right around the frame. Okay. All right. Now undo this a little bit. I just want to twist that sign a little bit more and try to get a little bit higher. All right. There we go. I'll go on this side. All right. Let's take a look at what we got. Woohoo! Here we go. Got a Merry Christmas. All right, we'll pull our tails down. I like to have the red. And then we got our cardinals, and then we have a little crosshatch pattern. And then now is when I can come through and say, okay, these are a little uneven, so I'm going to trim this a little bit. That's why you may not want to dovetail the ends of your ribbons until you're done. The rest of these, I think, look pretty good. This one I'll take a little bit off of. Just a little off the top. There we go. Okay. So there we go with that. The last thing we have to do is, oops, here we go. Goes that way. Goes that way. Okay, we need to put our extra little cardinal guys on here, okay? So I'm going to bring it around. Bring it toward you. We're going to put them there, there, and there. Okay, they're on wires. So I'm going to start with the center one, okay? And remember how we've got that pipe cleaner part in there? I'm just going to feed it through that wire. I can feed it through the back and it kind of comes around through the mesh because this is a very thin wire. So this is going to come right around the mesh. And I'm just going to pull him through, okay? And he's good there. So I'm just going to turn over and then I'm just going to bend this wire around the wreath frame, okay? It's thin and very, very pliable. So it's easy to do this. You don't have to have wire cutters for this, okay? Just wrap it a couple of times. You can always secure him with a little bit of hot glue should you want to, but you don't have to. All right. And bend that over. Last little bit, okay? There he is. He's sitting there. We're going to make sure we've got the ribbons adjusted underneath there. He looks good. Let's go do that with our other two birdie friends. They're going to go on the side, okay? So this one, if you're looking at the wreath, is going to be going into the, well, we'll call it 10 o'clock position when it looks correct, but right now it's at 4 o'clock. And I'm just pushing that in there, going through where it was, pulling him in. Now I want to make sure I like how he's situated, so I'm going to bend him. I want his face facing out, okay? But I also don't want him that way. We want to bend him a little bit so he is facing up and out, okay? So that's why that wire is nice. I'm going to bend that over again. We're going to do the same thing that we just did. We're just wrapping this wire all the way around the frame. How easy is this? You got these cute little embellishments. You got 3 little friends that are going to be watching you. All right. So he's kind of more like an up and down, and he's kind of sitting sideways, right? And you're going to want to keep adjusting your ribbons too, because every time we move it over, they will eventually calm down and learn where they're supposed to go. But you may have to come through and kind of fix their placement a couple of times. That's all right. And then we'll fluff our bow when we're done because I keep flipping it over. Okay, here is our last guy. Coming in now at what I guess would be the 2 o'clock position. My hand is behind the wreath. My fingers are up, trying to feel for where the wire is. Sometimes it helps to bend it a little bit. There we go. Now I can feel it. He is going to, they all kind of face the same way, so he's going to kind of face this way, all right? Okay. I'm going to wrap him. This very easy, thin, pliable wire. Wrapping it around just a few times. If you want to cut it with the cutters, you can. But I think the more it's wrapped around, the more secure it's going to be. Okay, so he's on there. Okay. All right, we've got our little cardinals. You can always add a little dab of glue if you wanted to. Like if I wanted to put a little dab of glue on the back of his wing and then kind of adhere him a little bit to that one ribbon. That way he's got a little extra added security. I might do the same over here, kind of on his back side. Just a little dab of glue on his wing. And the same over here, just a tiny little bit. There we go. Okay, now let's bring it around. Okay. One last refluff, especially that central loop since we had it flipped over. And here we go. The sign is up. The bow comes down a little bit. Make sure that we are not covering our letters. All right. We have finished this, my friends. You have made a wreath. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I know it takes a lot of effort sometimes to make yourself do crafts and finish it and see it through to completion, but I am so proud of you. And I hope you continue to craft. Crafting is fantastic therapy. I think it's more expensive than a real therapist, but that's okay. It's more fun, and your therapist doesn't have glitter. All right. Thank you so much for making this kit with me today. I really appreciate it. You can find lots of other kits at sweetradecor.com. And if you've made this and you want to send me a picture on Facebook or at sweetradecor@yahoo.com, email it to me. I would love to see what you make. All right, thanks so much for joining me today. Happy crafting.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can shop all of my items at sweetradecor.com, and you can follow me all over social media.